G'day everyone, welcome back to episode 9 of Baggers Podcast 24. I'm joined here today by my co-host.
Hello, it's Louis from the Perth Blue Baggers pod.
Today we are lucky enough to be joined by our dads for a Father's Day special episode. Dads, if you would like to introduce yourselves, that would be great. Let's start off with you, Dad.
Oh, right, yes. Yeah, g'day. I'm Lenny. Henry's written some script here. Apparently I'm very excited to join the podcast today. I am looking forward to it. We've been talking about this for a couple of weeks, and I'm glad that we've actually snuck into the finals because it wouldn't have been so much fun if we didn't.
Yeah, very true.
Over to you, Marty.
Lenny's got a good point there. It's really exciting. We're over here on Perth time, so we had the really disappointing loss at the last second against St Kilda, and we were really hanging on the edge of our seats for a good couple of hours here. But fortunately, the Power got the job done over here in the West, and we're off to play finals. So we're very excited, and you just got to be in it to win it. So you just never know if you're in the finals what can happen. So it's an exciting week.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely a strong introduction there. And we're very excited for this episode. Jump straight in to this week where we take on the Lions at the Gabba for our first final and hopefully not our last. I'll head into some key strategies we might need to use during this game against the Lions to get the win. Starting with a good, solid first quarter. Can't let the Lions get off to a big start this week, as we know how damaging they've been playing this year, and in particular, first quarters. Can't just play one quarter, got to play 4 solid quarters, and we give ourselves the best of chance. Over to you, Dad, for your key strategies for this weekend.
All right. I've written a few things down here. I think, picking up on the big news of today, as we know that Doc's going to play, which is fantastic, and I'm sure lots of people will question whether he's fit and ready to go. And I say, forget all about that. He's in. Let's lean into the emotion of Doc fronting up. We were there at the Richmond game when he made his comeback game from cancer, and the feel around the ground was incredible, particularly when he goal. So I say, yeah, we absolutely lean into that and just extract all of the the good vibes that we can out of Doc playing. Lots to play out at selection. Obviously, there's we're only midweek here, so there's still talk of 6 or 7 or even 8 potential changes. So you sort of got to have a bet each way. You want to take some calculated risks in a final, and I think we have to. Obviously, Doc coming in is a calculated risk. We have always going out, so that creates opportunity for other people. But on the other hand, it's also a final, so you don't want to bring in players that are underdone. You want your players to be battle hardened and ready to go, and so it's it goes without saying it's the most important week for the match committee to really get it right. And if we're being honest, that's not always the case at Carlton. Some there's some head scratches some weeks. So we really we put the asset on the match committee to get it right this week. And on that, you probably want to, for me, avoid the players that, to my mind, are underdone. And I'm thinking about guys like Chera, Martin. Chera particularly can often take a few weeks to get going when he comes back from injury. And I'm nervous about TDK. I think so long out of the game. Pitnet's performed well over the last couple of weeks. So I'm probably inclined to go with Pitto over TDK, at least for this week. Up forward, I hope we learn a little bit from the last couple of weeks. So we're going to welcome back Harry and Charlie, it seems like, which is fantastic. But we've obviously found other avenues to goal over the last couple of weeks. So I think I'd like to see us, looking for those other avenues, lowering the eyes, not just bombing it forward to the big two, which we are prone to do as well. The other one is just horses for courses. We know it's Brisbane. It's going to be greasy on Saturday night. So let's pick the team to suit the conditions. It's hard, physical, lots of runners, and we're going to need a bit of skill and a bit of polish. And probably to that end, I'll call my wild card. I want to see Orazio in. I think he's had some really good moments in the last couple of weeks, and I think he's, particularly with Owies going out, I want to see the Raz up forward.
Yeah, sounds good.
Over to you, Marty.
Yeah, Lenny's made some really excellent points there, and I had some similar observations, particularly in terms of our strategy. I'll leave the sort of picking of the players. I think we're going to discuss that shortly, but I think a smaller lineup might actually work really well, and we did that. Our best 2 games recently have been the last 2, when we didn't have some of our best players in. It's because the guys that came in they came with a lot of energy and a lot of commitment, and they put the pressure on the opposition. I know we didn't get the W last weekend, but we're a bit stiff. I thought the energy was there, and we probably had the better of them over the 4 quarters. Sometimes it goes your way, and sometimes it doesn't. But some of those players have come in. I'd like to see someone like Cooper Lloyd keep his spot, because he's been excellent. His energy and enthusiasm has been fantastic. So
One-rated pressure player last week.
He was, Lenny, and and you sort of touched on this a little bit, but some of those players that are coming back in, and they're awesome players, and some of them have to play because they're just too good to leave out. But you can't bring in all talls and drop all shorts. So you've got Mackay, Curnow, TDK, and McGovern amongst them. That's 4 talls there. So we can't just bring all of them in and drop all the smalls. That wouldn't work very well. So I think that certainly we've got to keep some of those runners in that have made a big difference. And Ollie Hollands had a great example. He played really well last game, and he's an example of that. And I think Brisbane run really hard. So unless your 2-way running when you don't have the footy, it's going to be really important on the weekend. So we've got to keep that in mind. If you have too many players that are underdone, that could become an issue. So the tricky thing is how many of those that you bring in. But I think also Brisbane, they're going to face the pressure. So in terms of your strategy, if you get in front and stay in front early, you're going to put the pressure on them. We've finished 8th. They've finished 5th. They're playing on their home ground. So I think that you've got nothing to lose but throw everything at it. Attitude will make a big difference here. And I'd like to see some of those players that have come in and made a difference keep their spot. So I think a bit of a mixture of bring in, I know there's up to 8 ins. So you bring in some of them and not all of them. It's somewhere around 4 to 6 probably that will end up playing. So it'll be interesting to see who those is, and maybe we'll unpack that a bit.
Sean's free to call him.
Yep. Good analysis there. My turn. So most of what I've got has been talked about already. There's a few stats that I just want to mention. So we have been struggling with our biggest win was against Geelong in June. And we've only managed wins against the bottom 3 sides. You'd say that injuries have played a significant role in our inconsistent form lately. A little bit about the Lions. I think we should touch on the Lions a bit. So Brisbane rank 4th last in the league for goal accuracy, a favour that cost them the game. Cost them games against GWS, Collingwood, and probably our first match in opening round. So it will play into our favour if Brisbane continues to miss opportunities. A little bit on their forward struggles. Joe Danaher and Eric Hipwood managed just 1 goal each in opening round. However, the small forwards and midfielders are typically probably the biggest threats to Carlton in transition. Also, I might keep into mind the Gabba dynamics. Carlton, we generally lack speed at the Gabba, so the smaller ground suits our style. However, Brisbane's defence has been solid, not conceding 100 points at home since their win over St Kilda. So they're a very good defensive team. It'll be a big midfield battle. with Will Ashcroft whose return a few weeks back has strengthened their midfield, which also joins Hugh McCluggage, Josh Dunkley, and Lockie Neal. We're expected to dominate in offensive transition. And then we've struggled to defend against fast-paced transitions as seen against Hawthorn and cannot afford another slow start like that in opening round. And obviously Brisbane had the home ground advantage.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you all for answering that question. You all had some really good, interesting points. We'll move into some key players that we need to look out for ahead of the club. Start off by probably got to be on the lookout for the two-time Brownlow medalist Lockie Neal. He's been in some dynamic form the last probably whole year. Realistically, he's definitely made his case for his third Brownlow this year. Joe Danaher, he's had another very strong year. Hugh McCluggage, he's probably been a very underrated player, definitely in the competition, but yeah, he's just piling on probably the votes in the Brownlow. Obviously not going to win it, but just definitely a very underrated player. Charlie Cameron, we all know what he can do. His speed and precision has been on points this year. Probably not one of his stronger years, but definitely know what he can do in each and every game. And possibly Zorko, as he has really found some form probably the last maybe 10 matches or so. He's held his nerve, and as he's gone on for a few more years, just really knuckling down and has found some really good form. And I'll hand over to you.
Yeah, I think he's the oldest All-Australian. He's just been awarded in this week's team. So, yeah, Zorko's in good nick. I think the thing with finals is you have to win them. So, obvious question, but I mean you have to be the team that takes the initiative. So what I mean by that is I'd be cautious about having too many run with roles or too many sort of overlapping defensive strategies. We need to win this game and we need to win it out of the middle. So I'm more inclined to go head to head. The team that wins the centre clearance battle will go a long way to winning this for their team. So I'm happy to let our guys go ahead, at least for the beginning stages of the game, and see what unfolds from there. I think we've always got a good lever to pull with George Hewitt. If someone like a Neil is getting away from us, we can apply Hewitt a little bit more defensively. That said, George has been bloody good the last couple of weeks at finding his own ball and getting forward as well. Defensive leaders, we've probably got a little bit more to worry about. I think, some of Chincotta's most effective roles this year have been blanketing the small forwards, and I wouldn't mind seeing him go to Cameron, who is a real sort of lightning rod for their team emotionally, and he also gets the crowd going. So having someone like the kitchen sink keep wraps on Charlie would be a good idea. And the other one, haven't watched a lot of Brisbane this year, but the young player Kai Lohman always seems to pop up and do good things whenever I've been watching them. So we may see a Boyd come back in, and hopefully Boydie's got the juice to go with someone like Lohman. Really thrilled with the job Cowan's been doing down back as well. So I think we've got enough steady heads in the back line to hold up, just keeping on top of those small forwards from the get-go. And the big guys, Young's been serviceable the last couple of weeks. I think he probably, cops a bit of a bad rap from a lot of the Carlton fans, but I think Young's been, more than serviceable. Obviously, Wiedering to be best. So take them on in the middle, do what we do best down back. And, hopefully our big guys are on fire up forward.
Yeah, definitely a good. Over to you, Marty.
I think a couple of things. You mentioned Lockie Neal. I'm with Lenny. I think that your first option is you just go with them head to head. We've got a great midfield. And if you can beat the likes of Cripps, Walsh, Chera, if he plays, I'm not sure whether wanted to play like Lenny, not sure about his hamstring, but there's others like Elijah Hollands that go through there as well. Good luck. If Neil is getting out of hand, you've got options to try to curtail him. But I would think they might be trying to tag some of our boys. Just a word on Sam Walsh. This is the guy that finished player of the finals for the AFL last year. And he probably played his best game for about 2 months last week. He was fantastic. And I reckon he's a real wild card. People are talking about Cripps because of his Brownlow year. Watch Sam Walsh. I reckon he could be exploding. He likes the finals, obviously. The hard thing to know is how some of those boys coming back in will perform after you've missed time. You've had time out. So it's not clear. I think that Wiedering will be really solid down back. He'll probably get Joe Danaher. One guy I'd be a little bit nervous about because if we do just bomb it into the forward line because we've got Charlie and Harry, look out for Harris Andrew. I think that you definitely want to, and Lenny talked about this, lower the eyes, kick to the lead, use space. We've got some small forwards. That's the better approach than just bombing it in. And that would be a better strategy overall and helps curtail someone like that. I've got a number of really quality players like Zorko and others that you've got to watch. But I think part of that is what you do when you don't have the footy. So if you get numbers back in modern football, it's very hard for someone to get a run on, and we don't want to be scored off when we're turning over the footy. So that's something for us to be watching out because Brisbane like to move the ball quickly as well. I think we do those basic fundamentals, use the ball well, and Akers and Hollands run hard to beat an extra number around the footy. I think that makes a big difference. I think Carlton's best. Our ceiling is better than their ceiling. It's just a case of whether we play to our best. Because when we've been playing well, we knocked them off up there. So there's no reason why we can't do it twice in the same year.
And Marty, I'm going to go off script here. How do you deploy Kemp this week?
I'm putting him back. The reason is that we don't. I mean, Charlie and Harry have to play. They're two of the best forwards in the league. I know he was great against West Coast and kicked 4 goals, but that was when he was the only target. I'm not sure you can play 3 talls, and I think it goes against our script of probably trying to use our smalls more effectively and move the ball quickly and kick it into space. So I'm probably having him down back, and he's that third tall that's an option off the bench, perhaps.
Yeah. I largely agree.
I think we've basically covered who we should look out for. It'll be the biggest watch will obviously be the head-to-head battle between the midfield. So who comes up on top will be very pivotal to the result of the game, you'd think.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you all for answering. Let's get into our changes where we have some massive ins and some pretty stiff outs this week. I will start us off by saying in Curnow, Mackay, Doc, TDK, Chera, McGovern and Martin. I think we definitely need our best. Obviously, we need our best team in this week. And even if something really does happen, we've got a full pre-season ahead of us. So players can hopefully get the full pre-season in with no hassle or anything like that. But, yeah, outs goes Binns, pretty stiff. Young, Durden, because he can only play with one arm, basically. Motlop, Owies, Jack Carroll, and the unfortunate Cooper Lord. Pretty stiff outs. Probably the most stiffest would have been Cooper Lord, as he said, he's been the most pressure last week against the Saints. But when the likes of Chera coming back, the more experienced he is in finals. Doc, he's going to bring the raw to the Carlton team. As you said, the emotion that he brought when we went to the Richmond versus Carlton game. I think the stadium shook at some point. But yeah, over to you, Doug, for your change this week.
Yeah, look, I haven't done an explicit list of ins and outs. I think there's so many unknowns with our injury list, and we haven't seen some of these guys for a few weeks. I really don't know where they're up to. And of course, with finals, teams tend to draw the curtains a little bit and don't give out too much information. So in terms of who I think will be the definite ins, I think we're going to see, obviously, Harry and Charlie come back in, and that's hugely important. Obviously we're going to see Doc in, and I think that's great. I think that is our risk for this week, and maybe that means that we're a little risk averse elsewhere. I think I don't like us playing two rucks, so I think you have to stick with the form of Pitnet over the last couple of weeks. He slaughtered the fellow from West Coast, and he was serviceable against probably the form ruckman of the competition last week against the Saints. So I'm TDK out, remains out, and Pito in. Chera, Martin, I just think the injury risk is too high. I'd rather back in a Cooper Lord, who's got a couple of great games under his belt, and has shown that he's up to the step. And yeah, I suppose we're going to have a lot of question marks up forward with Martin under an injury cloud. Owi's out. Durden is really struggling with his shoulder, and Motlop is terribly out of touch. So I don't have the answers there, but I mean that obviously where I touched on before, I think we see Fantasia keep his spot, and how we fill out those small forward spots. Well, that's really between a hard place. But yeah, I think that's about it for me. I don't know the exact team makeup yet, but that's part of the beauty of this week is we're all excited to see what happens.
Over to you, Marty.
Yeah, it's a really difficult one to predict, isn't it? Not knowing exactly how many of them are going to come up. I think Kerno and Mackay are definitely going to play, and Mackay told everyone he's going to play pretty much. Doc's definitely playing. It's been announced, and I reckon that's awesome. I know it's a risk, but he's the kind of guy, he doesn't put his hand up unless he knows himself if he's ready. And apparently he's been training very hard for the last couple of weeks, so it's not come out completely out of the blue. It's an extraordinary performance to get back. And it's a final, so if he's cherry ripe, you play him. Probably the one where I have a slightly different view, Lenny, is if TDK is fit, I play him. TDK is our X factor. He can transform a game. If you think about Melbourne last year, we were really struggling up forward and nothing could get going. We moved him, slotted him in there. He does pinch hit there, and he took two massive grabs, kicked 2 goals, and suddenly we're back in it. He could change a game. I'm going to pick him and Pitnet, and Pitnet's your insurance, because if he's not, it doesn't matter if he's not rucking the whole game if Pitnet's there. It does go against the playing small, so you've got to find a few other players that miss out. And it might be someone like Young's unlucky and Kemp goes back, so that could happen. I think you've got a few of those small forwards not in great form, like obviously Sad always is missing because he was in good form, but Durden and Motlop only got 8 possessions between them. And I reckon Zach Williams should come in if he's fit, because Zach Williams, when he's has been really good. He's a chaos man. He just finds the ball and finds his teammates in that forward line, and he's been a revelation this year. So I'd like to see him come in. I'm not playing Chera and I'm not playing Martin because they're just breaking down too much, and I don't want to risk them in a final with Doc already coming in and others coming in. So that's kind of my tip. I'm keeping Cooper Lord. You play a guy like that who's come into a team and playing great football, you keep him in, and you find others like Motlop and Durden that are not playing great footy, and they're going to miss out, unfortunately. So it's just how it is. And whether Binns keeps, and the other fellow that could miss out is Binns and Carroll, who both showed a bit, and they're players for the future, but they might miss out with those guys coming in. So it's around about 5 to 6 changes, which is as much as you can possibly carry, I think.
And Marty, just the back of that, Ashton Moyer, he's had 2 sub rolls. He's had 8 or 9 scintillating touches. He has not put a foot wrong. His hands look amazing. He's got possibly the cleanest hands in the team, just based on those 2 weeks cameos. Yay or nay?
I reckon you keep him as a sub. He's done
Yes.
2 great games as a sub. He's a great player to have on hand. And like I said, Motlop and Durden, I should say, have not had the impact that he's had over 4 quarters, that he's had over half a quarter. So I think keep him in. You're dropping a few other forwards anyway, and you don't have a lot of small forwards in that forward line. And we just happened to watch the game with his family last time round, and gee, they were so excited when he slotted that goal off the left.
Yes.
I think he's got a real lot of talent, that fella. And how good would those kind of guys? A final can be the making of you in your career. So yeah, give the guy another game.
Yeah, and I just think the cleanliness of his hands, and I go back to Orazio again as well. I've spent half the season shouting for Orazio dropped, and the last few I'm right in behind him. So those couple of guys with clean hands in greasy conditions can really, pop up and do the things that the miraculous things that we're probably going to need to get through this week.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. I'd love to see him play.
Yep. Over to you, Lou.
Oh, I think we've covered a lot there. Not much else to add. Obviously, I reckon you could, have a maximum of 8 changes, which I do not think we should or will do. With Sam Docherty, you have Tom De Koning, Charlie Curnow, Harry Mackay, Zach Williams, Adam Chera, Jack Martin, and the Govan. If you did want to put all 8 in and take 8 out, it'd probably be Lewis Young, Jack Carroll, Jackson Binns, Cooper Lord, Corey Durden, Orazio, Owies, and Ashton Moyer. But I don't think they'll do that. It's probably likely Adam Chera and Jack Martin will not be included. So we'll have 6 changes, in my opinion.
Yeah, great. All of you guys. Last cover, and it is a that myself and Louis like to do. So we've got some fan questions. We've got 1, 2, 3. We've got about 10 questions this week. So we'll start off with the one from Eels, Stars and Hawks. Fave footy moment with your dads. So I'll start us off. It'd probably be, I've got 2. It'd be the Jack Nunes after the siren, where we nearly shook the house and Mum woke up. She wasn't too happy about it. And then it would have been the semi-final last year when we both went to that game. Mum did too, and it was crazy. It was a really, really fun experience. What do you reckon, Dad?
Yeah, I'd agree. I think lucky enough to go to the Richmond final a few years back, where we snuck in from 9th, and we knocked off the Tigers on the back of an enormous Chris Judd game, and you could literally feel the MCG shaking. I never thought I'd feel a bigger game than that. And yeah, last year when we knocked off Melbourne was every bit as and that little bit bigger to us. So yeah, that's probably my favourite moment. As Marty, you've done the same. I've tried to explain to Henry that we used to actually celebrate grand finals at Carlton, premierships, but for the moment, a finals win was enough.
Yeah, thanks. If I looked at my favourite moment in footy ever, it's probably the 1999 preliminary final victory by a single point, when we were underdogs, not given half a chance, and it was a thrilling match all the whole way through. But that's actually not the most famous moment, favourite moment with my son. I think, like you, Lenny, I'd actually pick the same games probably that you did, Henry, but with the reverse, in that we went to the Jack Nunes goal after the siren. We were there, and that was just extraordinary. It was down the far end of the ground, and we thought that the siren went, and we thought we'd lost. It was, and everyone all the Dockers fans were jumping up and down and cheering and whatever else. And then it was apparent that we had a free kick, which is a bit of a contentious free kick, I remember. and they were lining up. And then we looked at, well, look at that angle. That's not going to happen. It's impossible.
Yeah.
And then he threads it. And, just all the Colton faithful around us, because we're in a sort of a Colton area, we're just going bananas. So there's nothing like being there live for your own team to win after a siren. That was pretty extraordinary. And one of my favourite moments on telly, of course, was that Colton win over Melbourne last year, which is just astonishing. I think we thought it was lost, really. And for us to win it inside the last minute was pretty awesome.
Yeah. Well, one of my first moments I recall, was probably I was 6 in 2013 when we watched the Elimination Final. So that was one of my first great memories of watching Carlton actually win a final. So, yeah, that really does stick in my mind. And me and my dad were watching that on the couch, cheering them on. And I do remember it going down to the wire, and then Chris Judd kicks a sealer. So, yeah, that was a very good game. And then, obviously, Jack Nunes, the collective gasp when the Freo fans realised there was a free kick awarded to us. So it was silence in the stadium already. It was already not so packed stadium, I must say, because it was a rainy day. So it was good to see, and we were ready to pack our bags and leave after that. After the final siren, because we didn't realise that that we still had a chance. And yeah, it was crazy scenes.
Yeah, definitely a big moment probably for our club. Definitely that semi-final. Went to Carlton Footy Club maybe a few months ago, and they've got it actually on a little square on like the best moments in the footy club, and it's got the semi-final from the goal from Blake Acres, which is pretty cool to see. It's more a statement, but Carlton to make the grand final and Cripps winning Brownlow and Norm Smith from Sheffers Honhan. Hopefully that does happen. That would be the best outcome over the last few weeks. Definitely had our backs up against the wall, and if that did happen, then the comp would probably be silent, which would be very good. Over to you, Dave.
Well, the question there is why not?
Yeah.
So a year like this year, it's as open a year as I can remember in AFL or VFL. I mean, you look at what we did last year. I mean, we got up to Brisbane. I think we were up by 5 goals at one point. So we were incredibly close to I know it's a head shaker, but if we could do it last year, there's no reason that we can't do it this year. We just need a few things to go our way, and Cripps winning the Brownlow. I mean, I think you find probably the years like this, I'm not sure that the favourite. I'm wondering whether someone like a Caleb Sarong or some sort of Smoky might come through and take his Brownlow. But of course, we'd love to see Cripps. I think that was another great moment, dancing around the couch.
Definitely.
The year Crippsy won, and the Norm Smith. Well, I can't make dogs get up. The battlers who. Yeah. So look, if we get to that point, I'll be happy to make a call then.
Over to you, Marty.
Yeah.
It's a bit hard to know, but of course you've got to be. The only thing you can do with the finals is get there, and then the finals is kind of like a whole new season. So nothing else matters that much now that the finals are starting. So you could have won every single match during the home and away season and go out in straight sets. And Melbourne finished top 4 and went out in straight sets last year, and we made the preliminary final. So anything can happen. You just need to be there. We probably would need to win in Brisbane, win in Sydney, and perhaps win in Adelaide just to get to Melbourne in the last weekend in September. So no minor task, but look, anything's possible. It's the evenest season of footy I can ever recall. You just can't pick what's going to happen from one week to the next. Even Sydney, that finished on top, haven't been great over the last 2 months. Some teams have gone up and down and everything. I would say this about Cripps. whether you win the Brownlow is also dependent on how other players play across the whole season too, right? So you don't know if you'll win or not. But he could not have had a better season really than what he had. He could not have done much more than what he did. Even when we haven't played well as a team, he's still played really well. The last sort of 2 months when we haven't been great, he's still been fantastic. So, he couldn't have done more. So I'm really proud of our captain, and all power to him. And who knows what will happen in September.
Yeah, very true. One thing that we do know is that we never do it the conventional way in anything we do.
Right.
So yeah, we're always a chance. I wouldn't be giving up hope yet. I wouldn't be giving up just yet, baggers. We still have a chance, and I do believe in miracles.
That is a very good. That's a very good statement there, Louis.
Yeah.
Well, where did the Bulldogs win from a few years back? Did they come from 7th?
With sixth, I think, sixth in 2016, I think it was. Yeah.
You know, strange things can happen in finals.
And like I said, this is a year when lots of teams have gone up and down, haven't they? So you don't know.
Exactly. Essendon, Collingwood, which we all love to see. We love to see them falling out of the 8 this year. But over to our next question, where it is, who are your favourite players from Charlize Ferroni? So mine would be, my childhood one would be Eddie Betts. Love Eddie. Just a really inspiration to all people. Nice person in general. And currently, changes about every 2 weeks, but probably Zach Williams at the moment. Probably the form he's been in this year, coming back from that injury that he had earlier or late last year or early last year or something like that he had and suffered from, and then just to see him come back and find some really good form and get the crowd involved and the Carlton faithful involved in basically everything he does, whether it's kicking goals, being a defensive hero or whatever it is. But yeah, Zach Williams is my favourite player currently.
And a bit of Ashton Moyer lately, from what I've heard.
Definitely a bit of Ashton Moyer.
For myself, look, it's hard to go past Cripps, of course, because he just encapsulates everything you love in a footballer. He's honest as the day is long. He's hard at it. He just absolutely bleeds for his club, and so whilst it's probably the obvious answer, I think he and obviously Doc, when he's playing, they really, in terms of inspirations and being great leaders and role models for the younger Carlton fans, I don't think you could have two better ones. And then if we're going back in a day, there's so many to choose from, but obviously, Sticks Kernahan. I think Stephen Silvani was incredible. Probably as an underdog, one of my favourites was Peter Dean, he's was just again one of those guys. Defines what Carlton was about. Hard nosed and skilled, and he's probably my underdog favourite from way back when.
Over to you, Marty.
Look, there's probably not enough time to talk about all my favourite players over the years for Carlton. I'd probably just single out two in the past in terms of one would be Greg Williams, who was just an awesome player. He was a stocky guy, and he's probably not a natural athlete, but he knew how to find the footy and use it well. And he was a stunningly good player. And the other fella who I love to watch play was Anthony Koutafidis, an absolute gun in his day. The best player in the league, I think, in his day, Kuta. But talking about current players, second everything that Lenny said about Cripps and Doherty. And Cripps is, you couldn't ask for more of a captain. Just sort of picking up on someone a bit different. I love the players or role players that are not glamorous but help make the rest of the team better. And I love the players that run really hard to get to a contest to make sure you've got numbers. And two of the guys I'd single out there that are not very flashy players but love playing for their club, Matthew Cottrell, that just does that all the time. He hasn't had a great year, unfortunately, because he's been injured a fair bit. But, grew up going for the Blue Baggers, and I think he just loves playing for the club. So when he's fit and firing, he's great. I like him. And the other fellow that runs all day is Blake Acres. And how good was he in the finals last season? And I hope he fires up again for the finals this season.
Yeah, two good calls.
Yeah, so to me, when I was first younger, Chris Judd was my favourite player. And then it changed to Mark Murphy. He always used to get all of his any sort of pictures, merch from him. I was pretty obsessed with Mark Murphy. And another memory that I must point out is that he also kicked a clutch goal over here in the West. So that's another good memory that me and my dad have had. That also probably developed a lot of love for him too. And then currently, it's got to be Patrick Cripps. He's West Australian as well. He's a very good role model. So I'd love to meet him one day.
Yeah. Next question for us is our ceiling better than the rest of the comp? From CZARAR. I'm going to keep it sweet, nice and short, and I'm just going to say yes. Because I'm not sure what ceiling means, so I'm just going to say yes.
It means our very best better than other teams' very best.
Oh, yes. Yes, definitely.
I'd say our ceiling is potentially better until we start believing that our ceiling is better. There's a couple of times, particularly when we were really playing our best footy earlier in the year, and then you could just see in the following weeks a couple of guys drop it back a gear and being perhaps a little bit too comfortable with how we were going. So you've really got to keep, nose to the grindstone. The attitude has to be there, which has probably been a weak point for Carlton in recent years. So there you go. There's a great sitting on the fence answer.
Over to you, Marty.
I think the answer is yes, but of course that's predicated on you playing your absolute best footy. And Lenny makes a good point in that you can get a bit comfortable and a little bit lazy a little bit there. And I thought we lost a little bit of a hunger a little bit at times in the season, and we kind of were cruising a little bit. That game that all of us attended was a good example of that, where we were playing the Bulldogs at Docklands. And I thought in the last 10 or 15 minutes, we got really urgent and fired right up and tried to win the game, but we're too far behind. We shouldn't have let them get that run on us. We were right in the hunt, but we just, Curnow missed a few shots and this, that, and the other. But I felt we should have won that game, but we were just a little bit off the ball for the second and third quarters, and it cost us. So you got to be hungry. You got to really want it. So our best is very, very good, but you've got to play your best to realise that.
Yeah, there was weeks where we gave up big early leads just by, again, dialing it back that gear or two, getting a little bit complacent with how we were going. And that's been the story for Carlton the last 4 or 5 years, is this bloody frustrating sort of momentum football where it's all or nothing. Yeah. And for our best stretches this year, we really looked like a complete footy team, and that's what we're going to need to rediscover come Saturday.
Yeah. So I think you identified the word to describe it as complacency there, Lenny. It's certainly a problem. We just simply need to play for 4 quarters. 4 quarters of good footy is our best. Probably best for every other team, actually. But if we did play last quarters, how we've always had a good momentum against Collingwood and the Giants and Bulldogs and the Geelong's first game, we did manage to get some momentum going in the opening round. to try and come back. And we saw what missed opportunities does, which is what Brisbane did in that game. So we, need to capitalize on our opportunities and play for full quarters, and that is our best. And I truly think that can win us a premiership.
Yeah, and that actually comes in really good with our next statement from Panthers Honhan. Blues winning the premiership. So, I mean, we really all do hope so. Anything is possible, definitely, with this season, as we see the Hawks as a pretty good example. They were 0-5 in their first 5 matches, and now they're 7 for 6th on the ladder and looking like a complete young youth team. Just that they look really dangerous this year. Definitely in their back half of the year, but yes, we all do hope so that the Blues win the premiership. Over to you, Dad.
Look, of course we hope so. I'll be satisfied if we just leave everything out there. So if we absolutely give our best and give a 4-quarter effort and come up, a little bit short, well, you can't really begrudge them. So if as long as we don't have a big mid-game lapse, I'll be happy with what they put out there.
Yeah, the same here. Really, I'm a big believer that old adage. I know it's overused, but it's 1 week at a time. So we're in with a shot this week. You give it absolutely everything that you've got. I was thinking going into West Coast and St Kilda, as long as they have a red hot crack and give it everything, I'll be proud of them regardless. We're undermanned. We all knew that. And the boys did throw everything in those last couple of games and gave it everything. We've got another shot this week. You just do your absolute best and see what happens. Anything's possible.
Yep. Flaggers 2024 is still on. We just need to play our best, and we're in with every chance.
Vulnerable up there too. They've dropped 4 or 5. I think they've won. They've probably fallen over the line in a couple of others, so they're gettable.
Yeah.
It's not an impossible task at all.
Yeah. Bring the passion, I say. Bring the passion.
Yeah. And that does conclude episode 9. A big thank you to our dads for joining us for our Father's Day special episode. Happy Father's Day to you both. Obviously, we're filming this on Tuesday night, and Father's Day was Sunday, so a few days late. Happy Father's Day to you both. I'm your host, Carlton Blues 24, and you are?
Louis from the Perth Blue Baggers pod.
Go Blues.
As well.
And
thanks for
as
sharing.
Well as Marty.
Chris, we've happy to talk Carlton.